Thank you for joining the Mile High Video 2020 presentation on multi-key DRM for secure and effective video services. My name is David Eisenbacher, and I'm CEO and co-founder of EasyDRM. For those not familiar with EasyDRM, we are the original DRM as a service provider. In this presentation, I'm going to go over the business reasons and the technical components behind a multi-key DRM. So, what is multi-key DRM? Very simply put, DRM encryption with multiple keys allows you to encrypt different tracks in a stream with different keys instead of using one key to encrypt all the video and audio tracks. This means your entire asset can have multiple keys as opposed to one key for the entire asset. Multi-key DRM encryption offers complete flexibility for the granularity of an asset's content protection. Since we can break up tracks, we can actually apply different rules and DRM key sets behind those different tracks. This is ideal in a security-conscious age where copyright holders can require hardware protection for premium resolutions such as 4K, Ultra HD, and HDR. This ties down into what's known as Level 1 and SL3000 hardware-based DRM security, as opposed to a software-based DRM system, which is L3 and SL2000 in the industry. And you can keep your content safer and enforce specific models by authorizing specific keys for playback of the selected bit rates and audio tracks. This ties into not just online, but especially offline. You can make sure that when they're downloading that asset for offline use, that the quality that they download has the tailored DRM license and usage policy around that. So a single key versus multi-key. In a single key implementation, only one encryption key is used for the entire asset, both the audio and video. This has been the norm for DRM encryption in the industry for many years. You had a DRM key pair and you encrypt that entire asset. In a multi-key solution, this allows you to determine the different DRM keys you wish to use per quality. You can have, as higher quality outputs are becoming more available, content owners are seeing that they want to have a more specific policy around the playback of those higher quality streams to just ensure that, that the content is secure and that it's not easily misused. So multi-key DRM for secure and effective video services. Why use multi-key? Well, first of all, DRM is there to support your business model. And with multi-key, you can get more granular in your business model. Satisfy the security requirements of content owners. This is now especially true in 2020. I mean, COVID is affecting the ability to even go to the movies. So now studios and large productions are going directly to an OTT service, and they want to ensure that that content, that movie that it just came out, has all the necessary safeguards around it. Enforce hardware DRM for premium services to offer the highest possible protection, so they can ensure that if they're playing back on a browser, that they can't actually get the possible Ultra HD content. That if you are playing back that 4K content, that you are doing a Level 1 or a SL3000 based DRM. And also to use the standard levels of DRM protection for regular content to offer the broad use across end devices. If you are playing back in a browser, let's say, and that's only a what's known as a Level 3 on the wideband side, or a SL2000 on the play-ready side, basically that you are able to play back the content, that they're going to offer a set of resolutions for you to actually watch that content. And this, helps ensure the maximum flexibility with separate encryption keys for your audio tracks and your SD content versus your higher quality content. Make sure that you're able to view your content on whatever playback device that they want to support, and allows them to help ensure that that playback is safeguarded. So we basically say this is for complete flexibility. DRM with multiple keys allows you to encrypt your different tracks in a stream with different keys, instead of using one key to encrypt all the audio and video tracks together. So you can, be very simple. You can, follow a rule where you're just encrypting the audio channels under one key and a different key for your video. This may be good for 80% of your content. But then you want to encrypt your premium qualities, your HD, Ultra HD, with different keys. So you may have one audio, and you may have two different videos, one for your standard definitions, how many of those are, and then a separate key for your true high-end stream. And that allows you to ensure that you're enforcing your hardware-based DRM versus a software-based DRM, and any additional output protection enforcement that you want to have on that stream or on that asset during playback. You can encrypt all your tracks with separate keys for being very granular. This allows you to create a DRM rules that are tailored per playback device. So a case in point for that is, let's say you have certain resolutions for a smart TV or a mobile app, and you know that resolution size, then you can actually ensure that that DRM license being issued to that device is tailored for all the necessary security rules and levels, as well as any additional rules like output protection that you want on that playback, on that device. Let's go over what a single key is. This is an example of a CPIX document, and towards the top there, you're going to see there is what's called the key ID. And the key ID right here is listed as KID. Just highlight that right there for you. And that is basically single key ID. And you'll notice that that key ID is the same for all the DRM lists or DRM systems in that list. So we have 3 DRMs that are being listed here. We have a Widevine, Play Ready, Apple FairPlay. But really what I want to show you is the fact that there's a single key ID in that. And that key ID is the same in that list. It's a single key. And with that, we also have a single plain value and IV. So with this single key, well, with those attributes, that packager can actually DRM encrypt that content, but it's all using one key for the entire output, the audio and any video qualities that are being offered. In a multi-key, the process is roughly the same, but during the calling for keys, so basically when that unprotected content is coming into the packager, it could be a live stream or it could be a VOD asset or maybe doing just-in-time packaging, but basically that packager is going to make a call for keys, and we follow both CPIX and SPEAK compliance, but it's going to make a secure call to our keys API. And in that, it's going to ask for a certain amount of keys that are all independent of each other. Audio and as many video, or as well, you can also separate audio tracks as well. But it's going to ask for a certain amount of keys, and we're going to hand that back. And we'll show you what that kind of looks like in the next slide. But basically, as opposed to the single key, which you just saw, the document is going to have multiple keys in there, each listed with a track type. And then that player, be it MPEG dash or an HLS output, that player is going to then call for a license, And depending on which track it's loading, which quality, and which DRM key pair it's loading, it's going to get a DRM license that that basically going to meet that enforcement level that is required for that client playback device. So the CPICS document is going to have a few more definitions. First, we have what's called a content key usage rule list. And this really is going to define how many keys that we want. And as a sub-definition, we have what's called a content key usage rule for the intended track type. So let me just highlight this here. Let's pick a color we can see a little bit easier. Let's use this. So you're going to see we have a key ID that's unique, and we're saying that's for my SD. We have another key ID that's also unique, and we're calling that HD. Same thing for here. We have another key ID, and we're calling that Ultra HD. And basically you can define, your own resolutions in here. I just put some examples, but these are just showing you how when it's being asked for different adaptation sets, that each key ID, it gets branded for a track type. Once we have that listed at the top of the document, the next part of the document then goes what's called the content key list. So in the content key list, like we had in the single key, of course, we have a key ID. Let's highlight that in red. Ooh, we don't like that color. Let's erase that. Let's use orange. We have a key ID, but this key ID is unique than any other key ID being listed here. This key ID on the second key pair is also different. So in the previous part of the document where we're listing certain key IDs of track types, in this part of the document, we're listing a key ID with the corresponding what's called plain value, but that's part of the encryption key pair, as well as the IV. So we have the IV, we have the key ID, and we have a plain value. But in this document, they're all listed independently, so that when the packager needs to create those outputs, it knows which DRM key set to actually use. And that gets followed by the last part of that, which is the DRM systems. So in the DRM system list is basically saying, well, for fair play, wide vine, and play ready, here are the additional information that the manifest needs to help trigger the player to make the proper DRM call. But again, you'll see a key ID here, here, and here is for one of the track types, and this key ID right here and right here, and I cut out the rest of the document just because it wasn't fitting too well, but you'll see that we list all the key IDs and the rest of the necessary information to add DRM onto that output stream. So again, I thank you for joining me on this Mile High 2020 presentation, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you very much.